Hey, my pals, let's try that again. Let's try again. Talk about the connection between gardening and content. Annuals, perennials, evergreen, and you leveraging your time better this quarter and this year with your content marketing and your content planning and your content creation. We were unfortunately interrupted. Of course, naturally. I'm going live, and that's when everything else is going to happen in the house. So let's just recap briefly, why don't we? So, Evergreen, leveraging Evergreen content. And then we talked about annuals, and those are the bright, showy, attention grabbing, but short lived content. We need some of that. We need some of that in our yards, and we need some of that in our business, which is why we have social media in the mix, why we have Instagram and videos and shorter lived videos, and why we can also try to reuse some of that content. And it's why sometimes people go back and they'll replant certain plants. And I think there's like spring pansies and fall pansies, so you've got a little bit of that color and why you have spring annuals and fall annuals. So you can reuse some of that social content. It's okay, but you don't want that to be everything because just like annuals take up a lot of water and time and energy in your garden, they take up a lot of time and energy in your content marketing, creation, and planning as well. So you got to be smart in terms of how we use them and sprinkle them in, which is why I love perennial plants like my lilacs. And Fran said she loved her lilacs and how they smell, and roses and tulips and lilies and other things that keep coming back year after year. You may have blog posts that work for you every spring, every summer, every fall. You may have ones that are good for multiple years until, well, things change in your niche, things change in your business, so you've got to go in and refresh them. Or maybe that's just no longer the right post, just like some perennial plants only really are at their max productive showiness for like 3 or 5 years. Well, the same is probably true for a lot of the content on your site as well, which is why we also then have evergreen content. The stuff that's steady, it's sturdy, it's long lasting, it's really timeless in terms of its advice. So what we were getting into is that evergreen content keeps working for you for a long time. And in some of your niches, that might be months or years. Some of that might be 3, 5, or longer numbers of years where you could just go in and refresh things, and it's going to be an epic blog post for years. But it needs to be relevant. It still needs to be interesting to your audience. There still needs to be that hook. They still have to find value in it and enough to read it, to possibly comment, to like it, to share it, to follow the actions and the calls to action that you have in those posts. And we were talking about the fact that evergreen content can be free content or it can be paid content. That if you're going to develop a lot of free content, it's a much better use of your time and to be money making marketing if that content lasts longer, if that content is useful longer and can potentially bring you traffic, bring you leads, grow your list, bring you sales, bring you affiliate sales for weeks, months, and years rather than being just a one off, one flash sort of thing, like a lot of social content is. So when people talk about recurring and passive income, so much of it is built on evergreen content, both evergreen free content and evergreen paid content. So here's the part we missed on the first half of this video. What are we talking about? So, especially looking at, for example, your blog, you can use evergreen email content, absolutely, but your blog, your website, here's some of the things that you might want to have in your site that are evergreen. Roundup posts. Some people do these weekly, some do monthly, quarterly. It completely depends. But at least if you did it yearly, you could look up and round up trends for the year, things that were important. Oh, hey, I've got that little. See, I'm using Canva here to show the slides. I'm like, oh look, there was a little blue highlighter thing. If you do this at least yearly, so this is a big one. Tons of people have been putting out a 2021 or they've done 2020. They do a year end or a year in review post, and maybe they talk about trends. They talk about all the products that released. They talk about their sales. They talk about their business growth. You can choose however you want to do that. You could do a roundup of, hey, these are all the new product releases that came out. These are all the new crafting tools that came out this past year. Oh my goodness, here's every social media management tool I saw that was released, or here's every new restreaming tool that came out, or oh, here's the best tips I saw in email engagement, or how to deal with crappy open rates. Any of those types of things could be potentially, a roundup. Other really great evergreen content gold interviews. Now you could do a video interview. I've done interviews where I've done Facebook lives, and a lot of those, they live on YouTube now, and they should be reused. I can be put them back out because the interview itself was really useful, and it's not always time sensitive. But you can also do interviews via basically like a guest blog post where you do a roundup and you've asked and you had a form. I did this. I asked for advice on email marketing of some of my business pals that was basically like a series of little miniature interviews. Case studies. Case studies are fantastic evergreen content, and they're also incredibly useful to use in your sales campaigns as you're launching things because you're showing, hey, this is what happened. This worked for my client. This is what happened for me. You can even interview people as part of a case study. If depending upon your niche, you might even do the more formal white paper or a report. Reports are often also a thing that comes with a whole lot of private label rights or white label rights licensed content. Well, you can adjust those, add some graphics, and you can use them as evergreen content because most of them talk about a problem and a solution. And then ideally, you're adding in the call to action. And the call to action is your solution, your course, your coaching, your services. So, epic guideposts. These are like really long form. These are like when Jennifer goes out and writes 3,000 words or 6,000 words in a blog post. It happens. Um, but it's if you structure it well, it might even have a table of contents. You're giving somebody a really in-depth guide. Kiss Metrics, Neil Patel at Kiss Metrics is known for this. They don't put out necessarily very many blog posts, but the ones they do are legendary, epic, deep dive, like here's the book in blog form on a particular topic for them in content marketing and email marketing as well. So you're guiding them through, you're addressing problems, you're giving solutions, and yeah, you probably have a course or coaching that goes even deeper into the how-to of whatever that guide is. Product reviews can be evergreen. You I think product reviews might be more of a perennial content because you're probably going to need to go back in and refresh it. You might decide 6 months later that you know what, you actually like another product or tool or software better. Or you might go back a year later and go, this is still my favorite. I still love Thrive better than anything else. But hey, did you know they've changed this about the pricing model? Or hey, did you know they added in Apprentice and they have Apprentice 2.0 and now their course management tool is so much better than it used to be. All true things. So product reviews, you might think of them as being perennial in that you're going to need to go back, check the links, refresh things. Does it have the right pricing points? You know, do you have content, that needs to be updated? Is there anything time sensitive in that product review? But still, you did it once and you're going to reap benefits from it. You can list posts. List posts are still common, like the 6 ways to do this, the 7 mistakes, 8 myths, the 9 misconceptions. It's a really clean, streamlined way to present information. And if the things in your list are evergreen as well, then hey, that content can hang around and bring traffic and bring people into your list and into your world for a long time. Just remember to go back and make sure the links and the content stays timely and that you update things and you make sure that you're looking for any broken links. Telling your story, your success journey, you yourself as a case study is evergreen. Yeah, people want to know. They want to know about you, and they want to know how you got to where you are. It could be a video. It could be a video embedded in a blog post story. You can refer back to it in your emails, in your welcome emails. So really, really good one to work on. Best practices. The best practices for doing anything that's in your niche. If you're a book writing coach and you help people and you have a course on how to write your first children's book, how to write your first children's book that gets picked up by a publisher, whatever, then you could write a really long form, meaty blog post about the best practices for finding an agent for your children's book, or the best practices in finding an editor for your first children's book. And then leading them into the next steps is okay, let's write it and get it actually published. That's your course, that's your coaching. Um, Definitions and a glossary. I have a seriously long form, very evergreen cornerstone content piece that I wrote for my other business and my other site years ago. It was like the A to Z glossary of marketing terms from over to my nonprofit audience. Tons of examples, tons of outward links, tons of images. Great for years and years and years. It gets lots of traffic. I probably do need to still go back, and it's got so many links, you have to make sure that you're updating that and refreshing it. Maybe you do a shortened version. You don't go A to Z. You're just like the most common terms in graphic design for non-designers. Maybe you're explaining photo and stock terms. I kind of have that. I define stock photography as well as giving resources in a blog post on my site. Courses and tutorials can be evergreen. You might need to go in, you might need to refresh them, maybe you add lessons, you keep adding stuff. So whoever bought originally, they're going to get bonus material. But great way to create educational, interactive content that's going to be useful for a long time. You've created the tutorial, you did the course. You don't want to just sell it once in like March of this year and that's it. You want it to be something that you can promote multiple times. You want to be able to have it be something that's connected to other evergreen posts on this list. You want it out there working for you for a long time. That's the whole part about how we get to the recurring and passive income. It's really hard to do that if you're constantly having to work on time sensitive, flashy, showy annuals types of content. So books, book lists, book reviews, the best books you found helpful on a particular topic in your niche, another evergreen one. So the point is, while you're thinking and you've got your planning hat on here at the beginning of this year, and you're looking at the next 90 days, and maybe you're looking through the rest of the year, and you think you're going to write a blog post, and you think you maybe even going to write an email, maybe you're going to do a video, think about how some or more than half of that content can be evergreen. How could it be made to be something that works for you for weeks and months and even years to come? Think about how that idea you have for an email or a blog post could be repurposed and reused. So here's an inside tip. The email that I sent out to my list today about evergreen content, a pretty good chunk of that is from an email that I've sent in the past. This isn't the first time I've talked about evergreen content, but I have new people. I have new people in my community. You may be in a different part on your journey. You're in a different part in your journey with me. So it's fresh and new to you. The same way that my lilacs are going to look fresh and new this season, even though they've been there for 10 years. So every time you write a blog post, it could become a podcast or a video. It could be broken into multiple emails. You might even have emails that really probably should be blog posts. And this video might wind up embedded back in a blog post, which then gets resent out in an email. You're going to work smarter, not harder, if you concentrate on creating more perennial and evergreen content in your business for your online business. It's so valuable, it's so important. So I just want to make sure that you're thinking about it and that you're leveraging this type of content so that you can have money making marketing so that your business can grow just like hopefully your garden out there is growing. All right, thanks, Mighty Pals. See you again soon.